Starting with an obvious one, we have the transfer of Julien Mascherano and Carlos Tevez to West Ham United from Corinthians. To this day, nobody knows how West Ham United managed to lure two of the biggest stars that Argentina had to offer at the time to Upton Park in 2006. In hindsight, this signing was used by both players as a springboard onto bigger and more successful clubs in some respects. In the second half of the season, Carlos Tevez especially was instrumental in keeping West Ham United in the Premier League. On the final day of the season, he scored the only goal as West Ham United defeated Manchester United 1-0, which secured West Ham's place in the Premier League for the following season. Mascherano didn't feature as much. He only featured in 5 matches for West Ham United in the league. Tevez would depart the following season to go to Manchester United, and Mascherano would leave to go to Liverpool. And it still remains one of the strangest transfers that I can remember, because West Ham United are not the most high-profile club, and yet they managed to attract 2 very high-profile players. Next on the list is Julien Faubert from West Ham United to Real Madrid. After only making 8 appearances for West Ham in his first season at the club, Faubert somehow managed to secure a move to Real Madrid the following year. The move was initially a loan deal, with Real Madrid having an option to make the loan deal permanent at the end of the 2009 season. However, this was never taken up by Real Madrid. Faubert didn't help his case after he missed one training session as he mistakenly thought he had the day off. His loan spell ended with Real Madrid after just making 2 appearances, and he would eventually return to Upton Park. Bojan from Barcelona to Stoke City. Having been dubbed the next Lionel Messi at one point, Bojan burst onto the scene at Barcelona in 2007 at the age of 17, breaking Messi's record for the youngest player to feature for the club in a La Liga game. Besides for playing for Barcelona, Bojan also played for Roma, AC Milan and Ajax. So heads turned when he decided to leave Barcelona and sign for Stoke City. Bojan would spend the next 5 years playing for Stoke City, and even played for them in the Championship when they were relegated from the Premier League. It's always seen as a strange transfer to me, because Bojan had played for Barcelona, won the Champions League there, won La Liga titles. He played for some other big clubs across Europe. So for him to sign for Stoke City turned a lot of heads in my personal opinion. The signing of Ali Dia by Southampton in the mid-1990s. Dia has been dubbed as the worst player in the history of the Premier League. The move proved to be an absolutely sensational one after Graham Souness, the manager of Southampton, was convinced that Ali Dia was George Weah's cousin, who at the time was playing for Paris Saint-Germain. Souness even gave Dia a 1-month contract, despite never seeing him play, and subbed him on and off again in a match against Leeds United. After a horrendous debut, the forward was eventually released just 2 weeks into his contract. Former Southampton player Matt Le Tissier said, "He ran around the pitch like Bambi on ice. It was very embarrassing to watch." After leaving Southampton, Dia would play for non-league Gateshead and Spennymoor United. Martin Braithwaite and his transfer to Barcelona. Braithwaite had previously played for Toulouse in Ligue 1 and also Middlesbrough in England, where, if you ask any Middlesbrough fans, he wasn't a very good player. And he also played for Leganés in La Liga. But for some reason, Barcelona decided that they would sign Martin Braithwaite to partner Lionel Messi up front for the Catalan team. What made it even more surprising is Barcelona triggered his £18 million release clause to sign him. In 58 appearances for the club, he managed to only score just 10 goals, and he was eventually terminated from his contract at Barcelona, having just been at the club for just under 2 years. Braithwaite would then go on to sign for Barcelona's cross-city rivals Espanyol, where he played 2 seasons for them. He scored a couple more goals than he did for Espanyol than he did for Barcelona, but these days he's plying his trade in Brazil with Grêmio. Edwin Van Der Sar and his transfer from Juventus to Fulham in 2001. Van Der Sar was rated as one of the top goalkeepers in Europe at the time, and he'd previously played for Ajax where he'd won the Champions League. In 2001, he made the shock move to sign for newly promoted Fulham in the Premier League. The contract was worth £7 million and it was on a 4-year deal. And it certainly weren't a club that a lot of people would have expected Van Der Sar to sign for. He ended up playing 4 seasons for Fulham in the Premier League before he moved to Manchester United, where he ended up winning the Champions League with them. But it always remains one of the strangest transfers, in my personal opinion, in terms of goalkeeping, because Van Der Sar's rated as one of the best goalkeepers, in modern times, and for him to sign for Fulham, who'd just been promoted, was a surprising one for me. Bebe and his transfer from Vitória de Guimarães to Manchester United. Previous to playing for Manchester United, Bebe had played for Estrela and he joined Vitória Guimarães, but he didn't even make an appearance for them, a competitive appearance. He was then signed by Manchester United for a fee reportedly worth £7.2 million in August 2010. What made the transfer even more strange is Sir Alex Ferguson, Manchester United manager, said that he'd never even seen Bebe play before, admitting that he sanctioned the signing after former assistant manager Carlos Queiroz advised him to sign Bebe. In his 4 years at Manchester United, Bebe made only 7 appearances for the club in all competitions. After leaving Manchester United, Bebe became pretty much a journeyman and he played for quite a few number of clubs in Spain and Portugal. He still plays today and he plays for a club called Unión Deportivo Ibiza, and they play in the Primera Federación, which is the 3rd division in Spanish football. Staying with Manchester United, the signing of Dong Fangzhou from Dalian Shire to Manchester United. Fangzhou had played in China for a 2nd division team before earning a move to Dalian Shire. When he played for them, he only scored 1 goal in 8 games, but for some reason Manchester United decided it would be a good idea to sign the player. At the time, he was signing a £500,000 contract, which could rise up to £3.5 million a season. This was all despite the fact that the player himself knew he weren't eligible for a work permit in England, and when he signed for the club, he was immediately sent out on loan to Royal Antwerp in Belgium. In his 4 years at United, Dong made only 1 competitive appearance for the club, and after his contract was finished, he was sold back to the club that originally sold him to Manchester United, Dalian Shire, where he played 2 seasons with them. He made 26 competitive appearances and scored 0 goals. Sold Campbell, signing for League 2 Notts County. Yeah, it happened. Campbell signed a 5-year deal with League 2 side Notts County in August 2009. Campbell said that County, who had been recently subject to a takeover by a Middle Eastern consortium, were the best club for where he was at the moment in his life, and that the recent appointment of ex-England managers Sven-Göran Eriksson as director of football sealed the deal. Campbell made his debut for Notts County in a 2-1 defeat against Morecambe on the 19th of September 2009. He walked out of the club 3 days later, and his contract was cancelled by mutual consent on the 24th of September. He later admitted he felt embarrassed and that he was being made to feel a mug in believing that the club's owners were ambitious billionaires who intended to take the club into the Premier League. However, this all turned out to be false. It remains one of the strangest transfers that I've ever known, and also Sol Campbell would probably have to be one of the most high-profile players to ever have stepped foot onto the pitch in League 2. And finally, Eric Maxim Choupo Moting's signing from Stoke City to Paris Saint-Germain. And actually, this is a bit of a double whammy because there's another team that he signed for after this, which makes even no sense either. Choupo Moting scored just 5 goals in his first season with Stoke City in the Premier League, but somehow this was enough to attract the interest of European powerhouse Paris Saint-Germain at the time. He signed for the club, and he would go on to only score 9 goals in 51 appearances for Paris Saint-Germain, and considering that Ligue 1 is not the strongest competition in the world, you'd expect a player to score more goals than that, especially when you're up front. Despite his poor record in France, he then secured a move to German giants Bayern Munich in the Bundesliga. I'd love to know who his player agent is, because he's managed to fool a couple of clubs now with his playing ability. After managing to score 38 goals in 122 matches for Bayern Munich, Choupo Moting now plays in the MLS in the United States of America. So that concludes my video on the 10 strangest football transfers. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know in the comment section below. There's a couple of other transfers that I've left out. I mean, everyone's going to have their own opinion of what's been a strange transfer or not, but let me know in the comment section below if I've missed any or ones that you'd like to add. And thanks to everyone that's recently watched the videos and has continued to watch them, and everyone that's recently subscribed to the channel. It's much appreciated. Anyways, this has been History of Football. Ta-ra for now.